Welcome to Quietly Reflective, a calm place for slow thoughts, gentle reflection, and quiet moments away from the noise of the day. Here, there is no rush to become someone else, no pressure to have everything solved, no demand to turn your life into a performance of improvement. Only a little space to breathe, to listen, to notice what you may have been carrying, and to meet yourself with a little more kindness than the world sometimes allows. Before we begin, let us pause for a moment, not to prepare perfectly, not to gather every answer, not to become suddenly brave, just to arrive. Settle yourself where you are. Let the weight of the day loosen a little. You do not have to solve your whole life in this moment. You do not have to become better, brighter, stronger, wiser, or more impressive before you are allowed to rest. For the next little while, there is only this quiet space, this steady voice, and one small sentence that has traveled far beyond the story it first came from. In Star Wars, the wise and unlikely teacher Yoda offers a line that sounds simple at first: do or do not. There is no try, a few words, almost too small to carry much meaning. And yet, like many simple truths, it stays with us because it touches something deep and very human. It speaks to the space between wanting and beginning, between thinking and acting, between the life we keep imagining and the life we quietly start to build. Most people do not stay still because they have no dreams. Most people do not feel stuck because they lack imagination. Often we know the message that needs to be sent. We know the conversation that has been waiting. We know the habit that would help us. We know the decision sitting quietly at the edge of our attention. And still, we hover. We tell ourselves we are going to try. We say we are nearly ready. We wait for the right time, the right mood, the right confidence, the right conditions, the right sign. But life does not usually arrive with perfect conditions. It gives us ordinary mornings, tired evenings, full inboxes, old worries, awkward conversations, messy rooms, unsettled thoughts, and bodies that sometimes feel more resistant than willing. So this reflection is not about forcing yourself into harshness. It is not about becoming ruthless with your own humanity. It is not about pretending fear is weakness. It is not about treating tiredness as failure. It is not about deciding that every delay is laziness. It is about something quieter than that. It is about steadiness. It is about the moment when we stop endlessly negotiating with a promise we know matters. It is about the small, honest action that proves we have begun. Yoda's words are not really asking us to be perfect. They are not asking us to be fearless. They are not asking us to know the whole path before we take the first step. They are asking us to notice where we keep hiding inside the word try. Because sometimes trying is honest, but sometimes trying becomes a soft place to avoid beginning. Tonight or today, wherever you are listening, we will explore this line gently. We will look at what it means, what it does not mean, and how it can help us move through discomfort without turning life into pressure. Because there is a kind of courage that does not shout. There is a kind of discipline that does not punish. There is a kind of strength that looks very ordinary from the outside. It looks like opening the document again. It looks like putting the shoes on. It looks like making the call. It looks like apologizing without defending. It looks like saying no without over-explaining. It looks like resting when rest is the thing you have been avoiding. It looks like taking the next honest step, not the perfect step, not the dramatic step, just the next one. So take a slow breath. Let the sentence arrive without needing to wrestle with it. Do or do not. There is no try. And let us begin. Chapter 1. The line that stops us. There are some words that pass through us quickly. We hear them, we nod, and they are gone. Then there are other words that seem to stop somewhere inside the chest. They are not always comfortable. They do not always soothe us immediately. Sometimes they interrupt us. Do or do not. There is no try. The reason this line can feel uncomfortable is because it removes a familiar hiding place. It points towards the gap between what we say matters and what we actually do. It asks us to notice the difference between intention and action. Intention can feel warm. It can feel meaningful. It can make us feel as though change has already begun. We intend to become healthier. We intend to be more organized. We intend to start the project. We intend to build confidence. We intend to have the difficult conversation. We intend to make more time for ourselves. We intend to stop putting ourselves last. And intention is not useless. Intention is often the first little flame. It tells us something matters. It shows us where our attention is trying to go. But intention is not the same as follow-through. A flame that is never protected, never fed, and never carried into action eventually disappears. That is where this line becomes a mirror. It does not ask what you admire. It does not ask what you hope might happen. It does not ask what you would do if you had more energy, more confidence, more support, more time, more certainty. It asks, very quietly and very directly, what are you prepared to do now? Not everything, not perfectly, not forever, just now. That matters, because most real change begins in a much smaller place than we imagine. We often picture transformation as something dramatic, a great moment, a new identity, a sudden burst of motivation, a clean break with the past. But in ordinary life, the beginning is usually much less cinematic. It is a decision made while the kettle boils. It is 5 minutes at the desk. It is one honest sentence. It is one drawer cleared. It is one email sent. It is one walk around the block. It is one boundary held, softly but firmly. The line stops us because it asks us to respect those small beginnings. It challenges the part of us that keeps waiting for the beginning to feel grand enough, clear enough, safe enough, or impressive enough. But the next step does not need to impress anyone. It only needs to be real. There is a deep kindness in this, although it may not sound like kindness at first, because vague trying can be exhausting. It keeps us emotionally tied to something without allowing us the relief of actually moving. It keeps the task alive in the mind, but untouched in the world. It lets us carry the weight of intention without the evidence of action. That is why unfinished promises can become so heavy. Not because we are bad people, not because we lack character, but because each postponed action continues to take up space. It waits in the background. It hums quietly. It becomes another tab open in the mind. The quote invites us to close one of those tabs by becoming clear. Do it, or decide honestly not to do it, but do not keep living in the fog of pretending to begin. There is maturity in both clear action and clear refusal. It is perfectly acceptable to say, this is not mine to carry. It is acceptable to say, not now. It is acceptable to say, I am choosing something else. What drains us is not always the decision not to act. Often, it is the endless pretending that we might act soon, while never choosing the moment. So as you listen, you might allow one area of your own life to gently come to mind. Not the most dramatic one, not the one that brings shame. Just one ordinary place where you have been saying, I will try. I will try to get organized. I will try to look after myself. I will try to finish it. I will try to speak up. I will try to make a change. Let that place arrive gently. No judgment, no criticism, just recognition. Perhaps this is the place where the line is asking you to stop hovering. Perhaps this is the place where the next step does not need to be large. It only needs to be honest. Chapter 2. Where the line comes from. The line is spoken by Yoda, the fictional Jedi Master from Star Wars. In the story, he is a teacher, a guide, and a figure of deep discipline. He is small, calm, unusual, and difficult to impress. He does not offer comfort in the form of easy reassurance. Instead, he often gives the kind of wisdom that interrupts self-deception. That is part of why the line works. It does not come from someone loud. It does not come from someone trying to dominate a room. It comes from a teacher who understands that the real obstacle is not always outside us. Sometimes the thing we are facing is not the task itself, but the relationship we have with the task. We may say the task is too big. We may say the situation is too uncertain. We may say the timing is wrong, and sometimes that is true. But sometimes the real difficulty is that we have not fully entered the action. We have stepped towards it with one foot still behind us. We have begun while already preparing the explanation for why it might not work. We have said yes in language, while our behavior remains undecided. A teacher figure cuts through that. Do or do not. There is no try. It sounds absolute. It sounds severe. But there is a deeper reading that is more useful and more human. The line does not guarantee success. It does not say that every effort will create the outcome you want. It does not say that commitment gives you control over every result. It says that the quality of your commitment changes the quality of your action. That is an important distinction. There are many things you cannot control. You cannot control every reaction. You cannot control every opportunity. You cannot control the mood of other people, the timing of every event, or whether the first attempt works exactly as planned. But you can control whether you turn up honestly. You can control whether you prepare. You can control whether you take the next step, rather than endlessly rehearse it. You can control whether you learn from what happens. You can control whether you return after an imperfect beginning. This is where the line becomes less about success and more about integrity. It asks, did you enter the action fully, with the resources available to you? Did you take responsibility for the part that was yours? Did you stop hiding behind language that sounded committed but kept you safe from real movement? In that sense, the line has survived beyond its original scene because it touches a common human pattern. We all know what it is to stand at the edge of something, a change, a challenge, a conversation, a practice, a decision. We know the feeling of wanting the courage before we act, but courage often arrives after we act, not before. The body learns by doing. The mind learns by seeing evidence. Confidence is built through repeated proof that we can move while discomfort is present. That is what a wisdom figure offers. Not a promise that everything will be easy, but a challenge to become steady enough to begin. You might think of this line as a doorway. On one side is endless preparation, endless consideration, endless self-negotiation. On the other side is action, feedback, learning, adjustment, and growth. The doorway does not ask for perfection. It asks for entry. And sometimes the whole work of a life is learning how to enter the doorway without waiting for fear to disappear. Chapter 3. The meaning of do. The first word is the simplest, do. It is plain. It is direct. It does not decorate itself. It does not ask to be admired. It points us towards behavior. Do. Not think about doing forever. Not talk about doing forever. Not prepare to prepare. Not arrange the idea of doing so beautifully that we never have to face the discomfort of the action. Do. And yet, if we listen carefully, this word does not have to be harsh. It does not have to mean do everything. It does not have to mean do it perfectly. It does not even have to mean do it with confidence. It means bring the intention into the world. Let it become visible. Let it become a step. Let it have a shape. This matters because many of our hopes remain too shapeless to be acted upon. We say, I need to sort myself out. But what does that mean at 10 o'clock on a grey morning? We say, I need to be better with money. But what is the action? We say, I need to be more confident. But where does confidence practice? We say, I need to get my life together. But which drawer, which email, which appointment, which sentence, which walk, which conversation? Do asks us to become specific. It asks us to turn mist into movement. The smaller and clearer the action, the less room there is for the mind to argue. A vague goal creates endless negotiation. A clear step creates a place to begin. I will walk for 10 minutes after lunch. I will write the first paragraph before I check my phone. I will book the appointment today. I will ask one question in the meeting. I will put the document on the desk and work on it for 15 minutes. I will tell the truth gently, without turning it into a speech. These are not grand statements. They will not make dramatic posters. But they carry something stronger than drama. They carry evidence. Every time you do one small, honest thing, you create evidence that you are not only a person who hopes, you are a person who acts, that evidence matters. It is easy to underestimate how deeply we are shaped by the promises we keep and the promises we abandon. When we keep a promise to ourselves, even a small one, something in us begins to trust. When we repeatedly abandon promises without reflection, something in us begins to doubt. This is not about blame. It is about relationship. You have a relationship with yourself. Every follow-through, every reset, every honest beginning speaks into that relationship. Do, then, is not a demand for self-punishment. It is a way of rebuilding trust. Perhaps you have been waiting for a huge surge of confidence. Perhaps you have been waiting for a clean mood, a fresh week, a better version of yourself. But the act of doing is often how that better version is made, not imagined. Made through repetition, made through returning, made through the humble practice of starting again. It can help to ask a simple question: what would count as done today? Not done forever, not solved completely, done today. If the answer is too large, make it smaller. If it still feels too heavy, make the doorway smaller again. The smallest honest action is not a trick. It is an act of respect for reality. You are not a machine. You are a person with energy, history, responsibilities, emotions, and limits. So choose something real, real enough to matter, small enough to keep. That is where doing begins. Not in the fantasy of becoming a different person overnight, but in the quiet decision to take one step that your future self can believe in. Chapter 4. The wisdom of or do not. The second part of the line is often overlooked, or do not. Those 3 words are important. They stop the quote from becoming a blunt weapon. They remind us that not everything deserves our yes. Not every opportunity is aligned. Not every request is yours to carry. Not every project is worth completing. Not every old promise still belongs to the person you are now. There is dignity in choosing not to do something. There is wisdom in saying, this is not the right season. There is strength in saying, I do not have the capacity for this. There is honesty in saying, I am not committed enough to keep pretending. Sometimes the most powerful decision is not to push harder. Sometimes it is to release the thing that has been sitting in the corner of your mind, accusing you quietly, while you continue to pretend you will get to it someday. We often think discipline means adding more effort, more tasks, more ambition, more pressure. But discipline also means choosing. It means refusing to scatter your life across too many half-made commitments. It means giving your real attention to what actually matters. To do something clearly, you may need to stop pretending to do 10 other things. This is especially true for people who carry a lot. People who are responsible. People who have been reliable for years. People who know how to push through. People who find it easier to disappoint themselves than disappoint someone else. For those people, the phrase or do not can be a kind of mercy. It gives permission to choose consciously, not to drift, not to abandon carelessly, not to avoid responsibility, but to decide. There is a difference between avoidance and refusal. Avoidance hides. Refusal names the truth. Avoidance says, I will get to it, while secretly knowing we probably will not. Refusal says, I am choosing not to continue with this. Avoidance leaves loose ends everywhere. Refusal closes a door with clarity, and clarity gives energy back. Think of how much strength is spent on undecided things. The half-agreed favor, the project you no longer believe in, the habit you keep saying you will start but never choose, the relationship pattern you keep tolerating while telling yourself you are trying to change it, the pile of intentions that no longer belong to your real life. Or do not asks us to tell the truth about those things. What are you actually willing to give your energy to? What are you no longer willing to pretend about? Where would a clean no be kinder than a vague maybe? This part of the quote is not negative. It is freeing. It reminds us that a clear no can make room for a stronger yes. It reminds us that commitment is meaningful because it involves choice. If everything is a priority, nothing is. If everything is a promise, trust begins to thin. So perhaps there is something in your life that does not need more effort. It needs a decision. Perhaps you do not need to try harder to carry it. Perhaps you need to set it down. Not with drama, not with guilt, just with honesty. Because there are only so many hours in a day. There is only so much attention a mind can hold. There is only so much emotional space a person can give. Do or do not. Both can be acts of integrity. The danger is not choosing either. Chapter 5. The foggy middle of try. Now we come to the part of the line that causes the most resistance. There is no try. Of course, in ordinary life, trying exists. We try recipes. We try different routes. We try new methods. We try again when something goes wrong. That kind of trying is useful. It is experimentation. It is learning. It is being willing to meet uncertainty without needing immediate mastery. So the line is not attacking genuine learning. It is not saying that effort is meaningless unless the outcome is guaranteed. It is pointing towards a different kind of try. The try that keeps us vague. The try that gives us an escape route before we begin. The try that protects our self-image from the risk of full effort. The try that allows us to feel committed without committing to a clear behavior. We know this version of trying. I will try to get back to you. I will try to make time. I will try to start soon. I will try to be better. I will try to sort it out. Sometimes those words are honest, but sometimes they are smoke. They let us soften the truth. They let us avoid saying yes or no. They let us keep the idea alive without having to face the action. There is a relief in saying try. It lowers expectation. It gives us room to fail without feeling that we failed. It lets us remain slightly outside the promise. But if we live there too long, something begins to blur. We stop knowing what we actually mean. Other people stop knowing what they can rely on. And most importantly, we stop knowing whether we can rely on ourselves. This is why the foggy middle is so tiring. It is not restful. It does not give us the peace of release, and it does not give us the energy of progress. It holds us between the two. There are times when saying, "I will try," is simply a way of being polite. But when it comes to the things that matter deeply, the phrase can become a hiding place. A healthier sentence might be, "I do not know whether this will work, but I will take the next step." That is very different. It accepts uncertainty, but it commits to action. It does not pretend the outcome is guaranteed. It simply says, "I am willing to enter." There is great power in that distinction. You can be uncertain and still be committed. You can be nervous and still be clear. You can be inexperienced and still begin. You can be tired and still take a smaller step. You can be afraid and still act carefully. The absence of try does not mean the absence of difficulty. It means the absence of vagueness. So when you catch yourself saying, "I will try," listen gently. Do not attack the sentence. Do not turn it into another reason to criticize yourself. Instead, ask what it is protecting. Is it protecting you from pressure, from judgment, from disappointment, from the fear of being seen to care, from the embarrassment of starting and not being good yet, from the possibility that the thing will matter more once you make it real? There may be a tender reason beneath the vagueness. Respect that. But do not let it drive indefinitely. You can care for the fear and still choose the action. You can say, "I understand why I want to stay vague, and now I will become clear." That is the quiet turning point, not perfection, clarity. Chapter 6. Commitment without harshness. A line like this can be misunderstood if we are not careful. It can be used to sound strong while becoming unkind. It can be used to push people beyond their limits. It can become the voice of perfectionism, wearing the mask of discipline. That is not the way we are holding it here. Quiet commitment is not harshness. Quiet commitment is not self-bullying. Quiet commitment is not pretending the body has no limits, the mind has no history, or life has no complexity. Commitment without kindness becomes brittle. It may produce a short burst of action, but it often leaves shame behind, and shame is not a good foundation for long-term steadiness. Shame makes people hide. It makes them avoid. It makes them turn away from the very action they need. The kind of commitment we are exploring is firmer and gentler than that. It says, I will not abandon myself into vagueness. It also says, I will not attack myself for being human. Both are necessary. Without firmness, we drift. Without kindness, we break. The aim is to stand somewhere between those two extremes, to become clear without becoming cruel, to become steady without becoming rigid, to become honest without becoming hopeless. This is especially important when discomfort is present. Fear can make a small task feel enormous. Fatigue can make an ordinary decision feel impossible. Old experiences can make a new beginning feel unsafe. In those moments, shouting at yourself rarely helps. What helps is reducing the action until it becomes possible. What helps is naming the feeling without obeying it completely. What helps is saying, I do not need to feel ready. I need to take the next careful step. Careful is not weak. Careful is wise. There are times when the next honest step is not to push. It is to rest. But rest is different from collapse. Rest chosen consciously is an action. Rest used as avoidance has a different quality. Only you can learn to feel the difference in your own life. Sometimes doing means working. Sometimes doing means stopping. Sometimes doing means speaking. Sometimes doing means staying quiet until the words can be honest rather than reactive. Sometimes doing means continuing. Sometimes doing means releasing. This is why the quote needs maturity. It cannot be applied as a slogan to every situation. It must be held with discernment. Do the thing that is yours to do. Do not do the thing that is not yours, not now, not honest, not aligned or not wise. But in either case, choose clearly. A compassionate version of the quote might sound like this. Take the next honest step, or consciously choose not to, but do not disappear into vague promises that quietly drain your life. That version carries the same strength, but it leaves room for humanity. And perhaps that is what many of us need most. Not more pressure, not more noise, not another demand to become exceptional. We need a calmer relationship with action. We need to learn that consistency is not built from intensity alone. It is built from returning. Returning after the missed day. Returning after the messy attempt. Returning after the plan changed. Returning after the confidence dipped. Returning after the old pattern appeared again. Commitment is not proved by never slipping. It is proved by how we come back. There is no need to turn every stumble into a story about who you are. A stumble is information. A missed day is information. An awkward first attempt is information. Use it, adjust, return. That is commitment without harshness, firm enough to move, kind enough to continue. Chapter 7. Fear, Discomfort, and the Doorway. Most avoidance is not laziness. That is worth saying slowly. Most avoidance is not laziness. From the outside, avoidance can look simple. Someone does not start. Someone does not reply. Someone does not finish. Someone does not take the opportunity. It can be easy to label that as a lack of discipline. But inside the person, there is often something else happening. Fear, uncertainty, shame, fatigue, confusion, the need for control, the memory of an old failure, the worry of being judged, the pressure of wanting the first attempt to be good enough. Avoidance is often an attempt to regulate discomfort. It gives quick relief. You delay the email and the discomfort drops. You avoid the conversation and the anxiety softens for a while. You skip the practice and you no longer have to feel clumsy. You put off the decision and you avoid the weight of choosing. For a moment, avoidance works. That is why we repeat it. But the relief is usually short. The email becomes more awkward. The conversation becomes heavier. The skill gap remains. The decision keeps returning. The unfinished thing grows a little louder in the background. This is the avoidance loop. A trigger appears, discomfort rises, we avoid. Relief arrives, then the long-term pressure increases. The way out is not self-attack. Self-attack only adds another layer of threat. The way out is recognition and a smaller, clearer action. You might say to yourself, I am avoiding this because it feels uncomfortable. That sentence is far more useful than I am useless. It is also more truthful. Once you can name the discomfort, you can work with it. Fear becomes information rather than an order. It can tell you that something feels risky. It can tell you that you care. It can tell you that there is uncertainty, but it does not automatically get to decide. A useful phrase is, I can feel uncomfortable and still act carefully. There is a whole practice inside that sentence. You are not denying the discomfort. You are not pretending to be fearless. You are not forcing yourself into a reckless leap. You are simply saying that discomfort is present and a careful action is still possible. This is one of the most practical forms of courage, not the big dramatic courage of films and speeches, the ordinary courage of doing something while your stomach is tight, the ordinary courage of speaking when your voice is not perfectly steady, the ordinary courage of opening the task before the confidence arrives. The doorway is often the hardest part. Starting the walk is harder than walking. Opening the document is harder than writing the 5th sentence. Dialing the number is harder than continuing the conversation. Putting your hand up is harder than speaking the actual words. The mind tends to gather all future effort into the first step. It makes the doorway look like the whole mountain. But a doorway is not a mountain. It is a threshold. You do not need to cross the whole landscape in one movement. You only need to step through. So when a task feels too big, ask, what is the doorway? Not the whole project, not the perfect outcome, not the final version. What is the entry point? The first sentence, the first 5 minutes, the first message, the first cleared surface, the first honest note, the first breath before speaking. Fear may still be there. That is all right. It can come with you. It can sit quietly in the passenger seat, but it does not need to take the wheel. You can move with fear present. You can move with uncertainty present. You can move with discomfort present. Not dramatically, carefully, honestly, enough to begin. Chapter 8. The smallest honest action. There is a phrase that can change the shape of a difficult day. The smallest honest action. Not the smallest action that lets you pretend, not the easiest distraction that looks productive, but the smallest honest action that allows you to move forward. Not arranging the desk for an hour so you never start the work, not reading more advice so you never make the decision. The smallest honest action. The action that touches the real thing. If the real thing is a report, the smallest honest action might be opening the document and writing 3 rough bullet points. If the real thing is health, it might be walking for 10 minutes, preparing 1 simple meal, or booking 1 appointment. If the real thing is a relationship, it might be writing the first honest sentence of what you need to say. If the real thing is confidence, it might be asking 1 question. If the real thing is rest, it might be turning the screen away and allowing your body to stop performing. This idea matters because many people make action too large at the start. They turn a beginning into a test of identity. If they cannot do the full hour, they do nothing. If they cannot complete the entire room, they leave every pile untouched. If they cannot write the perfect opening, they write nothing. If they cannot become calm, they avoid the conversation completely. But life is built more often through small returns than grand gestures. The smallest honest action lowers the activation energy. It makes beginning possible. It gives the nervous system a manageable doorway. It creates proof, and proof is powerful. Once the first action is complete, the next one often becomes easier. Not always, but often. Momentum is not magic. It is the result of crossing from imagination into contact. Before we start, the task exists as a cloud. After we start, it becomes a thing we can touch, adjust, and continue. This is why 5 honest minutes can be worth more than an hour of imaginary effort. 5 minutes done changes the relationship. 5 minutes done gives feedback. 5 minutes done creates evidence. 5 minutes done says, I am someone who can begin. You can use a simple sentence to make the action clear. I will do this specific action at this time, in this place, for this length of time. That sentence may sound ordinary. It is ordinary. That is the point. Ordinary structures hold us when motivation fades. I will write for 10 minutes at the kitchen table after breakfast. I will walk around the block at lunchtime. I will clear the top of the desk before I go to bed. I will send the update by 4 o'clock. I will practice for 15 minutes before I open social media. I will breathe, read the first line, and make the call. Once the action has a time and place, it becomes less negotiable. It is no longer floating around the mind. It has landed in the day. And if the action still feels too large, reduce it. Not to avoid, to enter. There is no shame in small. Small is where trust begins. Small is where consistency begins. Small is where a frightened or tired part of you learns that action does not have to be overwhelming, but it must be honest. That is the key. Ask yourself, if I did this, would it genuinely touch the thing I have been avoiding? If the answer is yes, it counts. It may not complete the whole matter, it may not solve everything, but it moves the pattern from fog into reality. And reality can be worked with. Fog cannot. Chapter 9. When the result is not yours to control. One reason people stay in the fog of trying is that they confuse action with outcome. They think, if I apply for the role and do not get it, I have failed. They think, if I speak honestly and the other person reacts badly, I have failed. They think, if I practice and I am still not good, I have failed. They think, if I begin and the first version is messy, I have failed. But in each of these cases, the action and the outcome are not the same thing. Your action may be to apply with care. The outcome belongs partly to other people, timing, competition, need, and circumstance. Your action may be to speak with honesty and respect. The other person's reaction is not fully yours to control. Your action may be to practice. Mastery comes through repetition, feedback, rest, and time. Your action may be to begin. The first version is not meant to be final. It is meant to exist. This separation is essential for courage. If we make success depend only on the external result, fear becomes enormous. We cannot guarantee enough. We cannot control enough. We cannot protect ourselves enough. So we delay, because delay gives us the illusion that we have avoided failure. But often we have only avoided learning. A better question before any difficult action is, what part of this is mine to do? That question brings the power back to the right place. Not all power, just the right power. What is mine to prepare? What is mine to say? What is mine to practice? What is mine to repair? What is mine to decide? What is mine to release? Once you know the part that is yours, the quote becomes cleaner. Do that part, not the whole universe. Not the other person's response, not the final verdict. Your part. This is especially helpful when fear of judgment is present. Many people wait until they can guarantee a positive reaction before they act. They wait to speak until they can be sure no one will disagree. They wait to create until they can be sure no one will criticize. They wait to apply until they can be sure they will be accepted. But there is no life available on those terms. A life built only around guaranteed approval becomes very small. The next honest step asks for something braver and more realistic. It asks you to do the controllable part with care, and then let the uncontrollable part be what it is. That does not mean you become careless about outcomes. Outcomes matter. Feedback matters. Consequences matter. Wisdom matters. But your worth cannot be handed over to every result. You can act well and still not be chosen. You can speak carefully and still be misunderstood. You can try a method and still need a different one. You can begin badly and still be building something important. When you separate action from outcome, you make room for learning. Every result becomes information, not a final judgment, not a sentence passed over your character. Information. What happened? What did I learn? What needs adjusting? What is the next honest step? This is how consistency survives disappointment. It is how we continue without becoming numb. It is how we stay in contact with reality without letting every result define us. Do or do not. There is no try. But there is learning. There is adjustment. There is humility. There is return. And sometimes return is the strongest action of all. Chapter 10. The practice of returning. No reflection on commitment is complete unless it makes room for slipping. Because you will slip. Everyone does. There will be days when the plan does not happen. There will be days when fear wins the first round. There will be days when tiredness is heavier than intention. There will be days when an old pattern returns so quickly that you only recognize it afterwards. This is not the end of the practice. It is part of the practice. The problem is not that we miss a day. The problem is what we make the missed day mean. Perfectionism loves to turn one missed action into a story. It says, see, this is who you are. It says, you always do this. It says, there is no point now. It says, if you cannot do it perfectly, you may as well stop. That voice can sound convincing, especially when we are tired, but it is not wisdom. Wisdom says, what happened? Wisdom says, what can be learned? Wisdom says, what is the next smaller action? Wisdom says, return without drama. That phrase is important. Return without drama. Not because it does not matter, but because turning every slip into a crisis steals the energy needed to continue. A quiet return is often more powerful than a dramatic restart. You do not need to announce a new era every Monday. You do not need to punish yourself into seriousness. You do not need to recover the perfect streak before you are allowed to begin again. You can simply return. At the next meal, at the next page, at the next breath, at the next conversation, at the next honest moment. Consistency is not the absence of interruption. It is the practice of coming back. This is where review becomes helpful. After action, or after avoidance, ask 3 questions. What did I do? What did I learn? What will I do next? These questions are simple enough to use when your confidence is low. They do not demand a long analysis. They do not invite self-attack. They turn experience into information. What did I do? Perhaps you took the walk. Perhaps you opened the file. Perhaps you avoided the call. Perhaps you spoke up. Perhaps you snapped. Perhaps you rested. Name it plainly. What did I learn? Perhaps the task was smaller than imagined. Perhaps the time of day was wrong. Perhaps you need support. Perhaps you need a clearer first step. Perhaps you were more frightened than you realized. Perhaps you did better than you expected. What will I do next? This is where the practice continues. Not what will you become forever, not how will you fix everything, just what comes next. A 5-minute return, a clearer plan, a smaller doorway, an apology, a different time, a reset. This approach turns life into practice rather than performance. Performance demands that you look consistent. Practice allows you to become consistent. There is a great difference. A performer hides mistakes. A practitioner studies them. A performer needs applause. A practitioner returns to the work. A performer fears the imperfect attempt. A practitioner understands that the imperfect attempt is where the teaching begins. So if you have slipped, perhaps even many times, there is still a way back. Not through shame, not through grand promises, not through trying to become someone else overnight, through one clear action, through one small return, through the next honest step. Chapter 11. A 7-day commitment. Now we bring the reflection into something practical, not a life overhaul, not a dramatic reinvention. One 7-day commitment. 7 days is long enough to create evidence, but short enough to remain real. It gives the mind a boundary. It gives the body a rhythm. It gives the promise a container. Choose one area where you have been living in the word try. Let it be specific, not everything, one thing. Perhaps it is health, perhaps it is work, perhaps it is rest, perhaps it is confidence, perhaps it is a creative project, perhaps it is a conversation, perhaps it is clearing space, learning something, setting a boundary, or keeping a small promise that has been waiting too long. Now let the vague sentence appear. I will try to. I will try to get organised. I will try to look after myself. I will try to write. I will try to be more confident. I will try to sort that out. There is no need to judge the vague sentence. It has probably been trying to protect you in some way. It may have been giving you room, cushioning the fear, softening the pressure. But now we will make it clearer. Turn the sentence into this. I will do one specific action at one specific time, in one specific place, for one specific length of time, or until one specific point is complete. This is where a promise becomes visible. I will write for 10 minutes at the desk before lunch. I will walk for 15 minutes after breakfast. I will send the email before 3 o'clock. I will spend 20 minutes clearing the table after dinner. I will prepare one contribution before the meeting. I will read for 10 minutes before I pick up my phone. I will sit quietly for 5 minutes and let my body come down from the day. Now ask, what is the smallest honest version of starting? This is your doorway. If the full action feels too large, reduce the first step without losing contact with the real task. Open the file, put on the shoes, write the first line, find the number, place the object where it belongs, ask for the conversation, turn off the screen, breathe and begin. Now name the obstacle. This matters because obstacles become less powerful when they are expected. The moment I am most likely to avoid this is when I am tired, when I feel judged, when I do not know where to start, when the first version is messy, when someone interrupts me, when I miss the planned time, when I feel embarrassed, when another task looks easier. Now build an if-then plan. If the obstacle appears, then I will do this. If I feel resistance, then I will do 5 minutes. If I miss the planned time, then I will choose the next available 10-minute slot. If I feel nervous, then I will take 3 slow breaths and begin with the first line. If I want to abandon the whole plan after one missed day, then I will return the next day without turning it into a story. This is how a commitment becomes humane. It does not assume that the week will be perfect. It assumes that real life will happen, and it prepares a way back. Finally, choose a review point. At the end of each day, or at the end of the 7 days, ask, what did I do? What did I learn? What will I do next? No drama, no court case, no attack. Just information, adjustment, and return. A 7-day commitment is not about proving your worth. You do not need to earn your value through productivity. You are not a machine. You are a person practicing follow-through in one meaningful place. The aim is evidence. Evidence that you can become clear. Evidence that you can act with discomfort present. Evidence that you can return after interruption. Evidence that the next honest step is usually smaller and closer than fear suggests. Let the commitment be simple. Let it be real. Let it be kind enough to keep and firm enough to matter. In closing, the next honest step. And so we return to the line once more. Do or do not. There is no try. Perhaps at the beginning it sounded like a command. Perhaps it still does. But there is another way to hear it now, not as a voice demanding perfection, but as a quiet question. What are you actually committed to? Not what do you admire from a distance, not what do you wish would happen someday, not what do you speak about when the mood is right. What are you willing to practice? What are you willing to make visible? What promise are you willing to make small enough that you can keep it? This is where life begins to change, not in the grand theatre of intention, but in the ordinary evidence of action. A real 10 minutes, a real sentence, a real walk, a real message, a real no, a real apology, a real rest, a real beginning. Fear may still be present. Let it be present. Discomfort may still be present. Let it be present. Uncertainty may still be present. Let it be present. None of them need to be the final decision maker. You do not have to wait until you are fearless. You do not have to wait until the whole path is clear. You do not have to wait until the perfect version of yourself arrives and takes over. You can act carefully now. You can choose clearly now. You can return gently now. And if the action is not yours to take, you can set it down with honesty. That too can be a form of peace. Do or do not. Both are clearer than the fog. Before we close, bring one sentence quietly to mind. The thing I will stop trying vaguely and start doing clearly is, let the answer be simple. Let it be something you can recognize tomorrow. Let it have a time, a place, and a first step. And then, when the moment comes, do not wait to feel transformed. Take the next honest step. Thank you for spending this time with Quietly Reflective. Take care of yourself. Move gently where gentleness is needed. Stand steady where steadiness is needed. And remember, in a noisy world, even one clear action can become a quiet turning point. As we come to the end of this quiet reflection, thank you for spending this time here. Whatever you are carrying today, I hope you can give yourself permission to soften, even just a little. Life can be noisy, demanding, and sometimes heavier than we admit, but your well-being matters, your rest matters, your peace matters. So when you leave this space, take care of yourself gently. Drink some water, breathe deeply, step away from what drains you where you can. And remember that you do not always have to be strong in the loudest way. Sometimes strength is simply choosing to pause, to rest, and to begin again with a little more kindness toward yourself. Thank you for listening to Quietly Reflective. Take care of yourself, and when you are ready, I'll be here again with more quiet thoughts for a noisy world.